Welcome, everybody, to Circle Back to You. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today, we're joined again by our friend Caleb Nelson from Naked Sunday. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Dude, I am just so excited to hang with you. I love this regular routine. I'm getting to see your smiling face every week, man. This is selfishly just great for me. I'm just happy. I'm just happy. So this is awesome.
More awesomeness on the way, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to talk about happiness starts at home.
Yeah, so this week I want to share we'll call it unusual, but it's really countercultural. It's my unusual approach to finding true success, not only just in business, but in life. And I think a lot of people, they misappropriate their energy. We get caught on chasing external success and we forget the things at home. And we always say, there's plenty of motivational quotes online and all that other kind of stuff. And there's, of course, the deathbed revelations of, I wish I spent more time with my family, things of that nature. But I wanted to bring this out, and why we were talking beforehand is that, especially with my moms, my high performance women, we talked a little bit about the things we like to focus on with them when I work with them. But one of the biggest drivers and the biggest fears they have is feeling disconnected from their family, but also specifically from their spouse, maybe from their husbands. Okay, we'll specifically use some more kind of like traditional things here just for ease of communication here. It's this fear and this desire and this want to be reconnected, to be desired. But if they go start making themselves a priority, they're afraid that that connection and the security and the stability that they currently have is going to dissolve. And all of a sudden, this life that they have, the good that they have, and this is specifically, I'm talking to people who are at a place of good. They have maybe all the external trimmings of success, but they're still lacking some fulfillment. Going from good to great, this is us now shifting you've shifted out of what I would call scarcity mindset. You're looking to move into more a place of abundance. You don't need to survive day to day. Things are good. So what most people do, when we talked a little bit about the crash diet lifestyle, a lot of things that they just go ping, ping, ping from one thing to the next. They go from one extreme to the next extreme. A great example of this is the average woman goes on and off 6 diets every year. This is the representation of the all or nothing thing where they burn themselves out and they can't complete this. And it's because they will inevitably hit a roadblock that, if you look and you dig deep down, is this disconnect at home where they don't know how to integrate these principles at home. They don't know how to integrate their family and their loved ones into their transformation. It ultimately becomes a problem of communication. So this approach, this framework that I'm going to present is called Happiness Starts at Home, but HOME stands for the different stages. When we start thinking about these stages, it's not about just a one size fits all. It's a a cyclical representation of growth. It's not just linear. It's not just one direction. We evolve and we come back again, and we slowly bring the next level of our growth through this. Okay. So let's go through happiness starts at home. Let's start with H. H is honesty. Until you are honest, you cannot grow. You can't grow either with yourself. You sure as hell can't grow with your family. And I specifically want to bring out the family thing here. We do not account for the fact that if things are not going well on at home, you are not nearly as successful in your professional life as you think you are. You might be doing great, at least compared to everybody else, but internally you haven't truly achieved your full potential. Okay, I'll tap back into that in a second. But first, you must be honest. This is where I'm at. Am I in alignment? How are things with my physical health, my physical fitness, my mental fitness, and my spiritual fitness? We talked a little about this last week, so if anybody's missing out, you go check back that last episode where I dive in a little bit deeper. But as a broad stroke here, physical fitness, and is my body in a place where I can do the things and the activities that I need to be able to do? Do I have the mental clarity, the mental acuity, or do I have that foggy brain kind of thing? When it comes to your mental fitness, am I putting my time and my attention to the things that I say I care about, to the activities that are super important? Am I noticing a stagnation in the growth in my family? Am I noticing stagnation in the growth in my business? It's a clear indicator that you're not putting your focus and attention on the things that matter most to you right now or to where you want to go. And of course, tapping that back into understanding yourself, your spiritual fitness, that deeper connection to your core values, to your vision and mission. Are your current behaviors in alignment with that? And do you need to reevaluate? Are you still going in the direction of your long-term vision of success and your quote unquote why? So with that, that's important. Not only do you want to go check in with yourself, but you've kind of put some people in place, i.e., you have a spouse, you have a business partner, you have some people. You got to go be honest with them too, because it's going to get a lot easier when you got these people here. They're going to hold you accountable. This honesty phase is about facing the mirror, not with what we typically approach it with guilt and shame, self-hatred. It's coming at it from a place of love and honesty, saying, I know that I have self-worth, but I also want to hold myself up to my own greatness. And in those two spaces, we can come to a great revelation about ourselves. We can actually hold those two concepts together, accountability and love. What that leads us into is now what I call the organization phase. That's O. O is about structuring your life. Well, we already just talked about one of the key pieces. Get your people in order. The classic saying of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, it's real because they are going to be the accountability for where you're going. If you're needing to make more money, if you're needing to get in better shape, well, just put yourself around people who not only have the external goals, but they also align with your core values, essentially how you want to get there. Do they align with that? If they're going to do it unethically, you're going to, and that doesn't jive with how your core values are, that's probably not the way you want to do it. Let's call it a physical fitness approach. Say you want to lose weight, for the people you're going around are just going to do this crash diet approach and the next extreme, the next fad diet thing because they can't seem to be consistent with anything. That's probably not the approach. So choosing your people and organizing your people in a way that's going to help you. That's one thing. You need to organize your schedule. So when you look at your schedule, that's a reflection of where your attention and your priorities are. Like almost like like you're cleaning your room. Your room is a mess and your schedule is all over the place and there's no rhyme or reason to anything. Don't be surprised when you can't find anything or the results that you say you want or the connections and the love and the depth you want. But in that organization, you also need to make sure those relationships are there because you also need to make sure, that whole thing called your family and your spouse, like those things that you are trying to maintain, the people you say you're doing this all for anyway, let's make sure that they stay on that because that one gets thrown by the wayside really fast, really fast. People forget that very important, intimate connection in their schedule. So we got those two things down. We've been honest. Because we're honest, now we can recalibrate and organize our lifestyle and our schedule and our relationships in a way that are going to be appropriate for the goals we want. Now we get into M. This is the maturation phase. Maturity, what does that mean? Well, responsible. How we grow here, maturation, process of becoming more mature is about growing in a responsible and sustainable fashion. Different than what I was talking about before, the crash diet approach. More of everything all the time. There's no mastery in that. In this approach, as we look to become more mature and we look to develop this, not the sense of self, but we're looking to develop mastery. We want to be able to keep the results that we're developing here. So what we're going to choose here is one habit at a time, not 7 habits, not 12 habits, just one thing. And then we can slowly stage up. And how this plays out different than what most people will approach it with is, let's say we have a laundry list of items. If I hand you 10 items to do today, and you have to do it every single day, but you don't even have the consistency to maintain one of those things. Let's say one is maintain a relationship. Let's say number 2 is do this crazy intense workout. Number 3 is have a super dialed in nutrition program. And then the 75 other things you need to do for business. That's a lot of stuff that you're saying you need to do every single day, but you can't even do the first one. So instead we're saying, hey, okay, Long term, we want to build to that. Where do we want to start? That's going to be our anchor. What's going to be our nice base, our solid foundation, where you feel most confident that you can slowly build the consistency. And you just do that. Build the consistency with that, and then you add another one. Then you add another one. You add another one. That way, you're going to slowly build competency in that area. You're going to know how to not only do the behavior, but because you're consistent, when you're consistent, it means you're able to apply it in a lot of different scenarios. I'm going to use the example of food. Maintaining certain nutritional habits, it's not just about being able to do it in your home. What if you had to travel for work? What if you had a business lunch? What if like your lunchbox got destroyed? Whatever. How can you maintain some of those things? What if the kids are crying? What if the kids got sick? What if somebody went to the hospital? Can you maintain that specific habit in all those different arenas? When you can, now you're confident. Now you can lock that habit in place. And the great part is when you add a new habit on top of that, you won't stop doing the first one, which is the important piece. We want to maintain the overall integrity of that. So that's our maturation process there while we're maintaining our relationships and we're maintaining the important things we need to do in business and that we're maintaining the practices that we need to do with fitness. Again, what's important here, this is not rapid results, what most people think that they want. And they're promising you the moon and the get rich quick schemes. That's not what we're looking for. You've already done that. The problem is you couldn't keep it. So let's do it a different way right now because you don't want to destroy your relationships in the process, which is always, every single time, the thing that gets nuked in the process because you're not fully happy and present anymore. What this gets to, you get to a checkpoint. We call this the endurance phase. What do we think about endurance? Well, endurance is about being able to do something over and over again for the rest of life. Now we can actually get into a place of play. We talked about the competencies when we get to apply it in a lot of different arenas. That's what we're doing. But ultimately, this phase is about just going back to the beginning. Let's be honest. Where are we at? Let's check in. Check in with your people. Check in with yourself. Check in with your metrics. Where do you want to grow again? What do you want to adapt? How do you want to be more creative? A great example here would be you've mastered a recipe or you've got really great at making a baseline recipe. You got your spaghetti and meatballs. Well, how can we make spaghetti and meatballs in 12 different ways? That's the play. That's the different expression of it because your foundational skills are great while still maintaining the rest of your lifestyle within that. Okay, so again, to repeat the 4 different phases of this transformation of happiness starts at home within yourself. We're going to be honest. So we're going to assess our physical, mental, and our spiritual fitness. We're going to be taking a look at those different elements of our life, our body, our schedule, and then our relationships. That's ultimately our relationship with ourself and our long-term goals. Then we're going to look at our organizational phase. We're going to reorganize those things to get back into alignment, put our environment in a place that is going to make it easy for us to maintain all of those things. Then we start to grow with our maturation phase, mastering your skills with slow, steady, consistent repetition and consistency. And then we plug it into that endurance phase where we get to ultimately reassess, make any adjustments we want, and then push play and go all over again. It sounds a little bit boring, perhaps, but what you start to actually appreciate is the subtle nuances, and you start to build a life around the things you love to do anyway. So it's not boring. And that's what makes this really cool because you get to incorporate the people you love in your life in a very different way. You get to go deeper in your relationships. You get to feel more pleasant in your life because you're not trying to do crazy things that don't align with what you actually care about. And those people are going to appreciate you because you're more consistent and you're more stable and you're more grounded within yourself. And when you do that, it's easier to communicate with them. It's easier to ask them what you want, and it's easier to give them what they need in that relationship. Because again, ultimately, the biggest fear I notice is that somebody wants to grow as they're afraid of leaving people behind. But this process and this framework allows for a staged kind of progression where you can incorporate those people into your life and give them the opportunity to grow with you. And so they can also understand where you're at without that ignorance, without that with that gone, they can actually know what's going on. They can actually find a way to contribute to your success, which they probably want to be. They're already there in the first place. They've been part of the journey. This is a way for them to be able to feel like they're a part of you winning. And people like to be part of the winning team. That's what it is. If they feel like they're part of it, they're going to get closer to you. They're going to be willing to help you more. And especially with my busy moms, they feel guilty asking like their husbands to help out. Guess what? Your husband can't read your mind. He wants to know how to help you, but you haven't told him how to help you. So tell him. I joke all the time. I can't read my wife's mind. She might think I can, but it's not real. It's not real. Okay. So help us to help you. Otherwise, we're going to bang our heads against the wall. We want you to be successful because when you're successful, the entire household flows and everybody's happy. Deep down, we know that in our hearts. Well, I mean, real talk. That's why, I mean, wars have been fought over women, not the other way around. Let's just remember where the power lies there. We want you to win. We want you to be happy. We want you to have you successful in our lives. And we want to have that big, happy family because, again, you'll be happy and everybody wins. Crazy to think that that's possible in this world, but that's how we go about it.
I think probably, in a situation where the husband or the wife has a business and they're trying to get maybe their significant other or the rest of the family involved in what they're doing, I think that's the biggest challenge. In how can that person do that without trying to force this idea on their significant other? You just explained it. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest challenge, though, for people.
There's a fear of saying this is just what I want to do. When you're actually clear, man, it's so nice. And let's remember this. I mean, it's every husband knows this. And let's be real, our wives do the same thing too. But let's use the more kind of quintessential meme that's all over the internet. Husband asks, "Hey, honey, where do you want to go for dinner?" "I don't know, whatever you want." And you go down the line and then you don't know what they want. So we don't know how to fulfill that responsibility. We just want you to be happy. So with clarity, when you tell somebody this is what I want, when you're honest about what you want, now that clarity is actually an act of love. When everybody, especially when you know that everybody's busy in their entire life making decisions for other people who can't communicate clearly, when you can be honest with your spouse, and remember, this goes both ways. It's not just one or the other, but I tend to notice that my moms feel even more guilty about speaking up for what they want. When you can be honest, that other person who might be feeling like a failure, your spouse might be feeling a failure in a lot of different places in their life right now. For them to be able to simply be the knight in shining armor for that moment, whether it's I'm taking you to this restaurant or we're doing this thing or you're excited about this business opportunity you're going to pursue and you have clarity of focus around it, man, much easier to say, wow, how do I support you? What do you need from me to get that done? Because men tend to think in more practical terms. It's so much easier. And we want, like, especially if you got married, like, what are we doing? Like, of course, why would we want you to be miserable? I think that's a ridiculous thing. And again, vice versa. So remember, everything here I said goes both ways. I just tend to notice the guilt is a little deeper with my moms. So it comes out a little more prevalent and they're willing to talk about it a lot more than the guys that I've worked with. So it's insane. And I'm going to share this with everybody, why this is so important that you get things square at home. I remember maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, probably, whatever it was, we had a down sales month back when I had my gym. We had a down sales month and I was like, okay, got to get on the horse, got to do my thing. And I did all the stuff. I did all the calls, I did all the reach outs, I did all the touch points, I did all the practical stuff you're supposed to do in business. Not only did the numbers not get better, they got worse. And I'm sitting there frustrated, ready to put my head through the wall because I'm just feeling defeated. And I reminded myself, like, you know what did I tell everybody to do the same thing, like go home, get things square at home. And I realized I was so burnt out. I wasn't focused on my marriage and our partner. We weren't married at the time, we were engaged. I was feeling disconnected. I wasn't feeling like we were kind of two ships passing in the night. I was like, you know what? I got to take my own advice. I went home. We had a nice conversation. We reconnected. We got back on the same page. Go figure. The next day I walked into work. I'm walking around, happy go lucky, a little more chill. The edge is off, which snowballed into one conversation with somebody, and then another one, and the positive energy. And by the time I got to a sales room, like I'm just feeling good, ready to love on people. And who doesn't want to be around positive energy? When it was about that other energy of like, this is numerical stuff and only that. And yes, there needs to be process and structure on it. But without that infusion of positivity and love that was generated and first like grounded at home, I didn't show up with the same presence. So, especially for anybody who's deeply empathetic and feels very deeply, it has this big, strong desire to keep a beautiful, healthy family going. Remember, that's your anchor, that's your strength. My wife is the most important business decision I've ever made because through the dark times and through the challenging times, she's by me. And when I feel like I've got that person by my side and she's got my back no matter what happens, I feel indestructible. It gives me that strength and that courage to go out and do those crazy things out there because it means something, because there's purpose behind it. And I know my moms that are stepping out of their comfort zone or have already built their business or try to take the next level. It's a little scary to go to the next level. So being recommitted and regrounded in that relationship at home, man, that's like it's like a superpower that is literally a conversation that you need to have. That's it. So I really hope people take that into consideration when they think about the importance of their personal life and their professional success.